So, namaste, everybody. Namaste. I have a few important persons to give you 1 minute each. 1 minute each. Where is Tahir Gora? Tahir ji, aap where are you? Come, please come. So he is a Pakistani, born in a Muslim family, but a Hindu. As you might say, wow, that's interesting. So he's a very hard, tough activist against Pakistan with human rights and so on. He runs a TV station in Canada, and we are very good friends. Please explain what you do.
So my name is Tahir Gora Chawla. I worked with Tariq Fatah in Lahore. And Tariq Fatah and I started a YouTube channel in 2010. When I was working with Tariq in Lahore, the city, I was born in Gangaram Hospital in Lord Ram City, Lahore. I was living in Krishnagar. My dad has a shop in Jan Mandir. I used to hang with my friends, journalists and writers in Lakshmi Chowk. This was in Lahore. This is a Lahore. But unfortunately, all these names are still there. So Tariq and I used to find a single Hindu in Hindu city. We could not find. So then Tariq left Pakistan, went to Saudi Arabia. I stayed back there. Then later on, I joined BBC. I worked in Soviet Union at the time. And back home, we used to travel both. We couldn't find Hindu there. We couldn't find a mandir in its intact shape there. So I'm the witness of human rights abuses towards Hindus in Pakistan, the country that was carved out in the name of hatred towards Hindus, in fact. Because the secular Jinnah said, Muslim cannot live with Hindus. I have less problem with the mullahs. I have more problems with the liberal Muslims, starting from Jinnah to Imran Khan. I was the first information secretary to Imran Khan's political party, and I discovered he's the biggest Islamist. So to conclude my words, I would say we need to work in terms of creating awareness to all those Desi Muslims, because the Arab Muslims have no issue with India. हिंदी में हम कहते हैं कि मोहम्मद बिन सलमान गले मिलते हैं मोदी जी से, मगर देसी मुस्लिम्स गले पड़ते हैं मोदी जी को. So this is the problem. How to solve this problem? I'm working on it in terms of creating an awareness for Desi Muslims to understand their ancestry. That's the only solution. And Tariq and myself take a pride in terms of creating that awareness, at least in a couple 100,000 people. And we'll continue our struggle.
I think the most important takeaway I want all of you to notice is that the so-called liberal Muslims that we know, some of them, the Desi, who are actually not explicitly saying, I'm a Muslim, this is my issue, but trying to say, I'm sab same hai, hum bhaichara hai, ye wo hai. He says, that's his view, that they are the most dangerous. They are the most dangerous. Okay, so this is an important thing to understand. I would also like to now invite Dr. Amendra Ratnu, who is doing something about the Hindus, women persecuted in Pakistan. So let's hear. He's a physician, he's a surgeon, and this is what he does for a passion.
My work with Pakistani Hindus started 12 years ago, and we have taken out 15,000 Hindus out of Pakistan in the past 12 years by the support of the Samaj. Now, to explain the issue, 1 crore Hindus are languishing in Pakistan in subhuman lives. In 21st centuries, slavery is being practiced. I have documented evidence, but if the world is ready to listen, if Hindus are ready to listen. Now the same thing has started in Bangladesh. We are looking at 3 crore Hindus being wiped out from the face of earth in the next 10 to 15 years So all the Hindus are bleeding about the demographic inversion. They do not have these 3 crore Hindus on the radar that if we इनकी घर वापसी नहीं करनी है, ये बने बनाए हिंदू हैं, अगर हम इनको भारत में ले आते हैं, and that was my life's work through Citizenship Amendment Act. We wanted that these Hindus get a preferential citizenship, which was botched up because of the multiple factors. So today's Citizenship Amendment Act is a stab in the eyes of Hindus like me and the Hindus of Pakistan and Bangladesh. More on this if it arouses interest. Why doesn't Pakistani Hindu genocide get registered in the Hindu psyche? A phenomenon called RULLS rules. Random, unceasing, low-level, scattered violence. A violence like Godhra always catches our imagination. Oh, train was burnt alive, but a Hindu leader killed here. A Vishwa Hindu Parishad small-time leader killed in a temple. An RSS worker killed there. They just make footnotes of the newspaper. They evade our, and this is the deadliest weapon of jihad. More on this if it arouses interest. Summing up my work with Pakistani Hindus, European Union Parliament, a neutral idara, says 3 Hindu girls are picked up every single day in Pakistan from their homes. These are underage girls. कुंवारी कन्या को हम अष्टमी के दिन पूजने वाले हिंदुओं, तुमको सबको मेरे साथ 3 कुंवारी कन्याओं का श्राप लगता है because we are not able to save them. The only thing that the Samaj needs to do now is to work on a fiery scale कि इन 3 करोड़ हिंदुओं को, 2 करोड़ बांग्लादेश और 1 करोड़ पाकिस्तान के, इनको निकालकर हमें भारत में लाना है. अगर हम ये नहीं करते हैं तो हम भारत में भी नहीं बचेंगे. The same template of RULLS, random, unceasing, low-level scattered violence, which is exterminating the Hindus of Pakistan and Bangladesh, will be used in Bharatvarsha. On the other hand, if Hindu Samaj awakens with Maharshi Shiraji Malhotra, like people leading us, and the banyan tree actually becomes a reality, then we will be able to gather enough funds, create enough awareness, and mend this broken Citizenship Amendment Act and actually bring these 3 crore Hindus. They are not refugees. Bharat is their home. They are displaced Hindus and Sikhs who deserve honor, dignity, and safety of Bharatvarsha. Thank you.
Rahul Sur has retired from the United Nations, and he's filed a very interesting petition in the United Nations about this particular problem. So give us your 1 minute.
Thank you, Rajiv, and I'm honored and privileged to be here. What I'm going to tell you is that there has been an accomplished genocide of Hindus, Christians, and Sikhs in Pakistan. And the term which has been employed by Pakistani writers is that it is a drip genocide. In other words, it has continued relentlessly over the years. It has been random, low level, but at the same time, it is an accomplished genocide. So this complaint which we have filed is before the United Nations Human Rights Council. One of the persons who has filed it along with that is Dipti Mahajan with me. There are 60 other complainants, and there are Muslims, ex-Muslims, Christians, Sikhs. So what we are asking for is a international criminal tribunal, like there was in the case of Rwanda and former Yugoslavia. So it is a legal complaint which has been filed under Article 2 of the Genocide Convention of 1948. Will anything come of it? We don't know. But we have to do, because as Dr. Umendra Ratnu said, what has happened out there will happen out here. And we need to wake up because the clouds are gathering over our country. Slowly, things are changing, and therefore, this is an attempt to tell people what has happened in Pakistan. Thank you very much.
So I would like to invite my friend Sukhi Sahal. He's He's head of the Khalsa group, and he's a proud Sikh who is trying to unify Hindus and Sikhs, fighting the Khalistanis and getting it back, getting trouble from both sides. So, in 1 minute, tell us what your goal is. And he's given up his career, he's given up a successful tech career he had, all of that full time with his money into this. And he needs help. But I asked him that he should tell us what the problem is, what you have done so far, and how it's run into roadblocks, what the issues are for the Sikhs to know and for Hindus to know. Please.
Thank you, Rajiv. Thank you very much. It's my privilege to even be here today among all the friends. As a proud Sikh, and for more than 15 years, as Rajiv ji said, I did my best fighting with some people, those who claim themselves as a Khalistani. I don't even call them Khalistani actually because they are the radical. They are very violent people. They are very well funded. They are well supported, not only by Pakistan ISI, but many other organizations, which you can go search my name online, you will see. I'm not a social media warrior. I speak on ground. I go to Gurdwara, I go to Mandir. I went to Australia, tour whole Australia, and I did the 2 event in Chicago. I did the 3 event in Vancouver. I went to Toronto. I went to 4 times last year, 5 times to India to make sure we connect the people. Sikh community is suffering. Sikh community has many more challenges. These Khalistani are not doing any favor to the Sikhs actually, so they are damaging the Sikhs more than anything else. They are not trying to damage the Hindu community, or they cannot do anything to India. India is too powerful. But I am so glad actually, so Bagaya is here, Sumitra ji here. They understand. We went to Punjab together. We went to Golden Temple. I went to Bagaya ji and we went to Golden Temple. And I see how much respect he received inside the Golden Temple. Here the witness. The thing is, in Punjab is suffering because we are talking about the Khalistan. Nobody wants the Khalistan in Punjab. Punjab is suffering because Punjab has many more challenges. One of the challenges is the conversion. One of the serious issue is the conversion. If there is anybody, I have a last hope, that is from the RSS. I lost hope. I'm a hopeless guy. I spent 15 years. I was looking for desperately help here and there. I felt that I am alone. I could not do it anymore. I gave the education to my kids. My daughter went to London School of Economics. She is suffering. She cannot come to the social media. My son, he's a computer engineer. He cannot even come to the social media. Why? Because they also get brutally, like all kind of propaganda because of my activity, what I'm doing for the sake of the Hindu-Sikh unity. My last blood, I will die. My last breath, I will die, whatever I could do for the Hindu and Sikh community. This is my commitment to everybody. But at the same time, at this moment, I don't have any resources. But we are like, whatever the respect I'm receiving from everybody, I will be there if there's anything I can do. Thank you very much. Namaskar, Sat Sri Akal.
So now we go overseas, and I want Richa Sinha. So Richa is in the medical field. She's has many clinics. I think she's a dentist, and many clinics she has, and she's looked after me many times in Scotland. But somebody with running all these businesses, but this is her passion. So in Scotland, they have an official representative in the government, and she's for the Scottish government, the Hindu representative, and having many problems. You see, people don't know that problems exist because you're living in your comfort zone, and you don't want to get out of your comfort zone. And you can keep talking to each other, live great life. Ho, I met this guy, I sat next to that guy. Here is my selfie, and I'm big shot here, there. And so you're living in a bubble and a cocoon. And so only when you go out of that bubble and you're able to represent your community in in front of authority, you realize how pushback it is, how much pushback, how much ganging against our community there is, how the Muslims gang together with the Khalistanis and all that, and they keep your issues out, and how you're bullied. So she will tell you what she goes through. Tell him about the latest issues, what's happening. 1 minute, please. Thank you.
So when Rajiv ji came 2 years back, it was a whole set of different issues. All of you know that the Hinduphobia motion has been passed in the Scottish Parliament in the last few days. It's been doing the rounds. So I'll talk a little bit about that particular challenge. What you don't know that Scottish Hindu Foundation as a representative body has been working with the Scottish government on this particular document, which we produced. It's called a policy document, which means we are not saying there is no Hinduphobia. What we are saying is in 2021 April, the Scottish government produced, passed a hate crime bill. When this hate crime bill came on to the consultation stage, we realized that Hindus did not have a say in it. The police did not know what Hinduphobia is. The Justice Service did not know what Hinduphobia is, who Hindus are, how to legislate. So we started our campaign on Hinduphobia, and we've been doing it slowly in the last couple of years. Some dishonest and bad actors came and they have done a premature motion. The motion that's been rejoiced all around the world, what people don't know is a motion that has been passed by a party which has actually just come in power. When if they had just waited 6 months, a year maximum, we would have had the ruling party, SNP, to put that motion out, and it would have gotten more support. So on this time, I've not spoken to Rajiv ji about this. Our challenge is not from the outside parties. It's our own, which I talked about on the panel as well. The challenge is from the dishonest actors, the non-Hindu actors who want to ride the wave and get some fame here and there. I hope this will not be telecasted anywhere because we're dealing with this challenge. Satish ji is laughing there. So the problems, as I said before, they keep changing. When Rajiv ji came, there's a different set of problems where Hindu Support Network had done some events and there was a push back from the local evangelical and other issues that were going on. Today, when I stand, there is a different set of problems. The Banyan Tree Initiative gives me so much hope. Because of this, when I came, we had two choices. What do we do with this particular situation that has been thrust upon ourselves? So we thought, okay, right, let's ride the wave. This is out in the news. And today I had an interview with Sri Iyer ji. I'm speaking to Vibhuti Jain ji. So because of this Banyan Tree Initiative, we are riding the wave. We're educating what is a motion, where we are with it. Satish ji is going to help me, spread the word in Republic. Vivek ji, you're listening. So I would like to speak to you about this as well. But together we can make a difference. But there is the enemy is within, the enemy is outside. We just have to look out for each other. And thank you, Rajiv ji, for letting me speak here. Thanks.
See how many intellectual Kshatriyas we have spawned. Okay, this is an amazing thing. So I want to bring Pandit Satish Sharma, my friend in England, who's hosted me many times. He's a fighter on many levels. Taken me to the British House of Parliament multiple times, Oxford multiple times, and so on. So please tell us some of the issues going on in the UK and that people here ought to know about.
Jai Shri Ram to everybody. I'm sorry I didn't hear that. Thank you very much. Rajiv ji, I would just like to share something which I received yesterday. It's a letter from Prince Charles for you. King Charles. Dear Rajiv Malhotra, I'd just like to express to you my dissatisfaction that a project of ours spanning 250 years to create a narrative in the English vernacular to fool Indians and to convince them of their inferiority and to do it in a manner that they would never suspect has been derailed by you. So you will not be included in next year's honours list. You have no opportunity of being a recipient of an OBE or indeed an MBE. Thank you very much. And as for the person delivering this message, please keep him in the former colonies. Don't send him back. Okay. Okay. So, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak. It's dangerous engaging with people who are like Rajiv ji, because often one or two words are enough to derail your complete framework of existence. And Rajivji has produced so much content that it has shifted the way in which we view the world and indeed our existence. I don't think people are quite aware of what an incredible contribution his work has been and will be on an ongoing basis. I'm not sure about this Ask Rajivji thing. As an IT guy, that really worries me, but I'm sure you'll factor in what needs to be done. But I'm speaking to yourselves here, you're members of an international diaspora. Although there is a great deal of pressure for you to think of yourselves as American Hindus, that's not really the reality of who you are, and it's not really the reality of how people view you. Sundar Iyer is a great example of what the reality is. Now, this is a global Kurukshetra, and the battle is being fought all over the world, and you will not escape the consequences. You are not beyond its reach. And the reason is that we are the descendants and inheritors of a view of how to live on this planet. And that view is what's threatening to people who have a lesser vision. This is like a boat. We have been sitting, the world is like a boat. We've been sitting in a corner, enjoying our nice, quiet, and peaceful, tranquil area of the boat. But when a boat rocks and when it sinks, everybody sinks. You have not got an option in that. As an American diaspora, you have a particular opportunity and a contribution to make. When I look at the Hindu diaspora across the globe, you are unknowingly amongst the most powerful potentially contributors in this battle. You have capacities and abilities and resources to contribute, which could infuse the whole of the diaspora globally with vision, with passion and creativity. And so please contribute that. In the United Kingdom, we have grown up in the heart of the mindset which created colonialism. These are the guys who did it, and we are Vibhishan Sena. Right? Rajivji is the embodiment of Vibhishan Sena, in that he saw the Nabhi, he saw what the weakness was in this colonial beast, and he worked out that the biggest contribution was dismantle their narrative. And he's been doing that for such a long period of time. We all have to do it. It's not going away. In fact, I would say it's getting more dangerous because they are onto us. They know that we know what's being done. And when that happens, they are now engaging in what is a battle for an existential success. So nobody's going to get away with it. Please step up and join the fight. If you can, risk exposing yourselves. If your family is happy to say, yes, we will allow you to step up and risk everything, go ahead and do it. But if you can't, support those people who are doing that. They desperately need your support. Please give it to everybody who is taking a risk. Rajivji, thank you very much. My namans to you.
Thank you, Panditji. So I want my dear friend Ragini. We go back long time. She's been helping for a long time, and then she said one day to me that I am actually going to do a PhD on your book at the University of Toronto. I said, okay. And then she did it. And so that's part of the academic world, and she had to go through a lot of process. And so now she's fighting a whole lot of fights, so many fights. Tell us a little bit about what your fights are.
No, I feel a little emotional because Rajivji has really changed my life. I was a very timid kind of person. And it's true. I didn't have the voice. I didn't have the framework. I had the fire in me. You're right about that. I was always a very defined. But, you know, what Rajivji has done has given us tools to be able to speak to any level of person. Today, I was on the WhatsApp group, and one very important temple person had posted, Happy Easter to everyone. You know, and I'm like, okay, how do I respond to? And a big explanation about how Jesus was, you know, all this Easter egg stuff. I'm like, okay. Then I think of Rajiv, like I always do. He has provided the foundational of my thought, my framework on how to respond. You know, so I very politely looked up ChatGPT and said, you know what, this is appropriation of pagan, you know, we all know the story. And then I had the cheek to make a post on Moron Smriti. I'm like, there's Rajiv Malhotra is an author, and he calls these kinds of posts Moron Smriti, and here's the description of it. And I'm not calling anybody a moron. So, the challenge for us is in our daily interactions, where each one have been provided by Rajiv ji, incredible array of frameworks. And that's this Rajiv Malhotra school of thought. Rajiv ji, was I the one who has been pushing you continuously that we need to make this, because this changed my life as it has changed, I'm sure, all of you, and that you're here. I want to thank you. It is no way, when I was planning, I thought about love story, when, Lulu sings to serve with love, and I would have liked to sing it, but I can't. But this is from where I come from. You took me from crayons to a stage where I can talk about a forest and a desert. I mean, how did you get me there? It's fabulous, and I'm so grateful. Until the day I die, I will be repeating his words. Thank you, Rajiv ji. You're such a hero.
So I want to invite Mohinder ji. He's a World Bank official or a consultant World Bank. And one of the things he's done is monitor how woke has gotten into World Bank, and in they're having courses taught about caste in India and these kind of things as a factor that might determine whether they give a loan or not, whether they fund a project or not. One of the criteria now will be this kind of a DEI criteria, which is very interesting. That now international financial institutions have been discussing that maybe when they give a loan to this guy, that guy, they will ask you, you're a Brahmin and you're part of this oppressor community, you're less qualified, whereas that loan, they have hired more people who are minorities, this, that. So we are part of giving more loans this way or that way, which is against the original principles of these multilateral organizations. They were not supposed to do that, but they're beginning to do that. So he's fighting a whole lot of battles. But his latest venture is to do something about Hindu temples. So why don't you tell us that?
Thank you, Rajiv ji. I have to start with a positive announcement that this training program that was started in the World Bank, it was the Equality Labs which was running it, and it was also being started in ADB and other financial institutions. It has been killed. Because in the World Bank, as a staff, you're not supposed to be fighting against the policies of the institution. But I wrote to all the board of directors who represent 192 country governments in the board. So I wrote to them, took up that issue with them, and argued, learning from my guru, Rajiv ji, as to how to argue, which I did. And finally, the World Bank agreed that that was a wrong thing to do, and therefore that was completely stopped. I worked in not only the World Bank, I also worked with the United Nations. I worked in many conflict zones. I worked with the Yazidi refugees in Austria who were being given refuge in Vienna, Austria. I worked in the Balkans, Serbia, Kosovo, Albania, all that where all that conflict happened. I worked in Cambodia, Laos, Vietnam, and in that conflict zone. So I have some idea of what a genocide ultimately looks like. What Omendra ji said about the low intensity jihad. Rajiv ji has created a legion of Arjunas. So this room is full of Arjunas. But there is another level of existence. We all are in our own bubble. But when I go, and I do, I go to Guntur, I go to Kadapa, I go to Muzaffarpur, I go to Hoshiarpur. It's a different planet. It's a different India. It's a different Hindu. That mindset, that challenge, that problem is very, very different. And the low intensity jihad that we talk about, that esotericity finishes the moment you land up in Hoshiarpur or in Muzaffarpur. And that is where the real battle will be fought. So that is why we are creating this global Hindu temple network. We are connecting all the temples into a network of immediately being able to share credible information, create that awareness, and create a platform for collective coordinated action. So the first responder, when the jihad starts, the first response will be from that local community. And that local community needs to have the capacity to be able to stand up and fight before the state will intervene, sometimes which it does not. Unfortunately, state does not intervene. We have surrendered our monopoly over violence to the state, but the state sometimes is unwilling, unable, or sometimes complicit, and therefore will not protect you. So you have to first stand up and protect your family and yourself, and that will happen at the local community level. So that is why we are creating this network where the temple, when I say temple, it's a temple community, that they can stand up in mutual support of each other, and we create this micro level ecosystem of volunteers in the temples by a pin code or a zip code, so that that becomes a mutual support system, and then you can stack it up. So this is just one level. And second is all the intellectual foundation that we are building up, all the intellectual work that we do, how do you get it delivered at that level where they can start assimilating it, and that gives them the foundation, intellectual foundation, to be able to stand up and fight. So therefore, that will be the second thing that this temple network will do. And then there are other things like freeing the temples from government control, which is in India. We are working with other organizations, social level, political level, and also at the community level, that we need to fight that battle. We need to claw back. We need to retrieve our temples back for us to become an asset and a fortress, not only for the protection of the community, but also as a fortress for protection of Dharma and our civilization. So Rajiv ji, you have lighted the path. We need to go down to Hoshiarpur and Jalandhar and Muzaffarpur to take that battle there.
So what he's doing is the temple banyan tree kind of thing, putting these temples together at a very local level to support network, because they're isolated. Something happens here, no other temple even knows. Who knows? Whereas the others are networked. Some little thing happens here, the whole community of the other kind, they all mobilize instantly because they're networked. But we are not networked. We're kind of isolated. Everybody doing their own thing. So this is a very important thing. So I want to invite Sri Iyer, and then Kundan, and then Aditi.
Thank you so much, Rajiv ji. And I'm looking forward to the 60th anniversary of Infinity Foundation. I'm hard to define. I'm doing a lot of Sanatani stuff, but I also do a lot of politics, geopolitics, a lot of different Venn diagram. Everything comes towards inside. In the middle, I'm a Sanatani at heart. I don't know how many of you know this, but Ravan was a Brahmin, and when Rama killed him, he had to do prayaschit. It's called Brahma Hatya. And this Brahma Hatya, you have to essentially go and pray to Lord Shiva and say, I have sinned and I want to do paschatap. So prayaschit. So he did it at 3 places. We all know that it was at Rameshwaram. That was the first one. But there's a second place where he went and did this. Kanchipuram, in a temple, Ekambareswara temple. There's a Sahasra Linga, that is 1008 lingas. The main linga is about that high, 3 feet high. And there are 1007 small lingas. And he did prayaschita there also. Many of us don't even know this thing that Rama had to do prayaschita. So these little things I pick up here and there, and that's what I share. I need your help because I'm now into 3 languages. I hope to do few more languages. And I'd also like to help Rajiv ji in whatever little way I can. Thank you, sir.
You see, the impressive thing is, a tech guy like him in Silicon Valley, he could be making tons of money, but he's given it all, and this is all he does. So it's very impressive. So I want to now invite Kundan Singh. Kundan was a student when we first started, And this is 25-year story. He's a follower of Sri Aurobindo. We know him well in this house. And so we helped when he was a student. He came to California to do his PhD. He became a superstar there to the extent that they had issues, and he fought hard, like a true, and he won. He got his doctorate, has a great career. And so we've been together for a long time, and we now he's a co-author of a book with Manogna. Manogna is where? There is Manogna. No, she's just there. She's just very Nimit Matra, sitting, hiding. She's a brilliant person. She's an astrophysicist. And you're coming, all you guys are going to come and stay for 1 minute each, something. So he joined her, and we did this book, which is about Sri Aurobindo, how he's been distorted, and so on. It's called The Battle for Consciousness Theory. If anybody wants, we have enough copies to give. So tell us. And he's fighting the school system biases and the colonization, the decolonization we have to do in that kind of education system. Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Rajiv ji. First of all, my gratitude to you. My situation is a little peculiar in the sense that when I came to the US way back in the year 2000, I'd already been inspired by Sri Aurobindo, and many of you would know that he was a freedom fighter who turned into a spiritual figure. But even when he turned to spirituality, he did not abandon his love for India and the quest for the transformation of the world. That's a very long story. Almost right after I came to the US, I was put in touch with Rajiv ji. And Rajiv ji at that point in time ran an e-group on Yahoo. And there were conversations that were happening, multiple conversations with regards to the problems that assailed India. And I think it was around that time itself that that the conversation around breaking India had already started. While growing up in India and as a student at Delhi University, I was very apolitical, so I was not very familiar with the issues. Those conversations really helped me in order to come to tune with what was going on. And very soon, the difficulties and the battle started. It's a long story. Maybe someday, maybe on one of the channels I will talk about it. One of the first people that I took on was Angna Chatterjee. She was a professor at the California Institute of Integral Studies. And the entire establishment came right after me. And so I was able to handle that. They gave me a lot of trouble when I was writing my dissertation on Sri Aurobindo and Swami Vivekananda and Sri Ramakrishna. By the grace of the divine, I would say that I survived that as well. Much later, I got involved in this textbook battle, and along with Krishna Maheshwari, I wrote a book called Making Children Hinduphobic, which has been published by Infinity Foundation, and it was Rajiv ji who inspired us to publish that work because it was predominantly written to raise awareness of the problems that exist in the curriculum and take the issues to the parents of the Indian American children. I followed that up with an academically researched book published by Palgrave Macmillan called Colonial Discourse and the Suffering of Indian American Children. I put in 4 years of rigorous hard work to basically expose the roots of the problems that we face as Hindus. And interestingly, I was speaking to Richa ji yesterday and told her that the person who concocted this discourse and institutionalized it was a Scottish person by the name of James Mill. I'll very quickly, talk about what the problems are. It's an issue of massive projection. We all know about the kind of Brahmin phobia and Hinduphobia that we suffer. Now, this individual, while he was writing on Brahmins, he was actually talking about his experiences that he had with English clergy in the UK. When he was talking about the Kshatriyas, he was actually talking about his experiences that he had with the aristocrats. When he was talking about the Indian Rajas and our monarchical system, our taxation system, he was actually writing about that system which he wanted to expel and transform in Britain. So it's a very interesting expose that actually needs to be looked into. And, I have very limited time. But I would like to say that this association that I have had with Rajiv ji has been extremely fruitful and beneficial. And the interactions that we have had over a period of time has really inspired me to fight this battle. And Rajiv ji, perhaps you would not remember. I'm a professor. I teach at a regular accredited institution called Sophia University. And in one of my courses, I used your book, Being Different, for 3 quarters. We have a quarter system. And perhaps, this is this is an anomaly which has happened. I intend to remain within academia and fight this battle because, I want to take the battle where it is actually being waged against us. I don't want to be anywhere else. Right within academia, face it and transform it like so many others have done. So thank you very much.
So Aditi was a Yale law student, and we got together. She started helping our foundation, a very good writer, many things we did. She's been the most continuous, loyal, and very intelligent, very brilliant person working with us for an enormous amount of time. And now she's a trustee of the Infinity Foundation, and she's married to our other very brilliant guy, Bishwajit. And so now she's an author. She writes fantastic books. So I wanted you to tell the group who don't know too much about what Infinity does, what the issues are, what is Hinduphobia, what the battles are. And you as a lawyer really know how to put it all together. So give us a little bit of that.
So it's interesting. I was actually talking to Bishwajit about this earlier, that when Sangeeta ji was putting together her documentary, and I would listen to all the recordings of the interviews they were doing, and I was supposed to give one, and I said, I'll give one. I never gave one. The reason I didn't is because sometimes some things and some people are just too meaningful that it's difficult to put into words. And I'm actually glad I'm speaking about it here because this house actually holds many special memories for me. When Indrani ji and Rajiv ji have graciously hosted me and other people for meetings, retreats, special occasions where we just listen to Rajiv ji and have our minds changed by him. So I think it was about 20 or 21 years ago, I'd written an article on being a Hindu American and a Hindu American identity. And someone had left me a comment saying, I've written a few articles, you may want to look at this. And someone by the name of Rajiv Malhotra, I'd never heard this name before. And it was in the days of Sulekha, so I read the Sulekha articles. And I was just glued to my laptop screen reading these words because I was, how did someone understand this experience I've had, which I've never had words for, growing up in this country, being a Hindu, but being shamed for being a Hindu and not being able to be Hindu publicly, and not being able to open a Hindu Students' Council chapter in my university, facing this misconceptions about Hinduism from my teachers. And when I challenge them, they'd say, I've read 3 books about India. How dare you question me? And here was this person, and people call Rajiv ji a scholar, but a scholar is someone who reads and researches. And what Rajiv ji does is he's an original thinker. He goes back to first principles. He deconstructs, dismantles thoughts and assumptions and puts it all together again in the right way. And no one else that I know in our times has been able to do that. And when I read it, I guess some people would call it a hallelujah moment. So maybe it's for me, it's a Hare Krishna moment. When I read this, and it was a revelation, and I said, this person, everything I could find of him written by him on the internet, I read. And then I was lucky enough to meet him in person. And meeting him in person, when I read the words, they were so dynamic and energetic. I thought he must be some very young person. Who is this person? Then I met him. I was very surprised. And and then just talking to him. But you know, the written word is just one part of it, and I was lucky that I was living in New York at that time after I graduated from law school, and I would meet with Rajiv ji, and he would listen, and he was a very patient listener, and I learned so much from him. And I know there were days when there'd be a lot of conferences and seminars and meetings, and he would be the keynote speaker. And afterwards, everyone would gather around him. There'd be 10, 20 people who just wanted to listen to what he had to say. And I would just sit there quietly and I would listen. And there's such a privilege in having someone above you, having an elder who knows and understands and fights the fights. And you can just kind of witness this. And it was a privilege just to be a witness and then a follower and then a small part of his movement. And everyone has already covered his works and all of that, so I won't do that. But I will say, one of the things that many people don't know is how selfless and giving Rajiv ji is, how many scholars he's personally funded without making, a big brouhaha out of it. And many times I would come down, we'd have breakfast or coffee, and I would just be marveled. He would just talk about the work that he does, 18 hours a day, year in, year out, writing, not just writing, fighting the fights, the unpleasant things, the things where you have to take the flack and you have to be criticized sometimes by our own people for, and just doing that because of principle, because of conviction and all of that. And so much I've learned just about that, about the tapovala that goes into that. And what I will say is, what I think about the future, and I think, when I'm in my days and I look back on my life, what will I think about? So I'll want to make sure I've done my dharma by my family, by my parents-in-law, and others. I want to make my guru proud. I want to make Sri Krishna proud. And then part of me will say, to the extent I've done any work for Dharma, would Rajiv ji be proud of me? And so I really owe a lot to him. And he's been one of the most transformational people. And I don't use this word lightly, but gurus in my life. And I will stop there.
So I want to mention Sankrant. Sankrant was a Microsoft guy, and he's modest, but I think at that level they had a certain level of technical genius, and in the company there were like 8 of them. He was one of those at the highest level. He quit that and has been doing this thing forever, since then. He became a part of the Infinity Foundation core thinkers, and we used to meet in Arshavidya Gurukulam. There were a few others, and they came. It's a revolving door, and they would go off and do something else, and then vanish and go back to real estate or make some money here and there, kind of thing, because they would get sick of it. This requires stamina. There's no easy victory. There's no early victory. It's not like you do this in a few years, you'll get success. You have to just go on doing it. You're not going to get success, but you do it because you want to do it. So he has stuck with this for a very long time. And we have done many projects together. So why don't you tell us some more?
Thank you, Rajiv. And when I was driving here with Rahul, I was mentioning to him, there is this public persona of Rajiv, where Rajiv is this bulldog, scary fighter in the public. And, everybody says Rajiv is so difficult and so difficult to work with. And I was telling Rahul, as we were driving here, you'll see the other side of Rajiv that you meet in his home, which is this very warm and gracious host. And I got to experience the hospitality of Indrani ji and Rajiv ji many, many, many times. I would sometimes I'd just have a layover in New York, and I'd say, Rajiv, I'm only here for 8 or 10 hours. and I'm just going to come and I'm going to have a beautiful meal and sleep, and I'm going to go back and catch my flight. It's like, yeah, come, you know. So we just get together like that. But it started I think when I read an article of Rajiv's and Sulekha about Wendy Doniger, it was, and Wendy's children. And it turned out, you know, I had actually recently quit Microsoft, and I quit Microsoft because I was like, you know, there must be other things to do than just kind of climb the corporate ladder. I could see where that path led to, and it was fine. There was nothing wrong with it. But there was a feeling that there was something different also that I could do with my life. And I think Rajiv's articles kind of sparked some of that. And then I went back and looked at Encarta that my daughter was reading, and I realized that the article on Hinduism was complete alien representation. Like I couldn't relate to nothing that the article had said about the Hinduism I grew up with. Like they had a description of Holi being this blood ritual, and you know, just all kinds of bizarre things. And lo and behold, I look at who wrote the article, and it was Wendy Doniger who had written that article on in Encarta. So I figured Rajiv was up to something, you know. So and that kept you know, kept getting this pull from Rajiv. And you know, some people know that I started this publishing house called Garuda about 8 years ago. But the inspiration for that was actually a slide that Rajiv had made one time, where he talked about this. There are these people who are producers of knowledge, and then there are all these channels of dissemination. You know, whether it's the media or the publishing houses, and then it goes to the bottom layer, the consumers of knowledge. And he said that we don't, as Hindus, we don't own the institutions. We don't own these channels. We don't own the institutions. And that was one of the big inspirations to actually start Garuda, where we needed to have institutions to tell our own story. I remember the first time the book we published was Invading the Sacred, actually. That was the first book. I think there was 3 or 4 of. Yes, exactly. Krishnan was and Aditi were the editors and the force behind putting it all together, and there were a number of essays from that. Exactly, and there was the what is that, Ganesha's trunk, Paul Coltrite. You know, so we had, like, I think there were 3 or 4 essays from me and a bunch of Rajiv's essays and Krishna essays. All of this was put together, and that time finding a publisher was not easy. And I know that Rajiv and Rupa finally published it, but we had to kind of really convince them that this was worth doing. And so now that we see so many publishing houses up and able to publish these books on these topics, when Rajiv was doing these fights, when we were in all of this struggle, this was a, you know, unusual thing. Just to get our first book published, get one book published was such a big achievement. And wow, we are actually getting published, right? And now Rajiv has, you know, produced so many of them. So there is such a story where people forget that what we are actually standing on the shoulders of giants in many ways. We've come all this way. We're able to do all these things. We're able to make the movies Vivek is making. We're able to write the books so many people are writing, because the battles were fought all along to get us to that point where we can do that openly. Right now nobody questions. You know, you know, Garuda gets like hundreds of book proposals where people are writing about Hindu topics. Somebody's writing about the Bengal Holocaust, and we actually published a book on the Bengal Holocaust. So many things. So I think that journey is really been so remarkable, and I think that's one of the biggest impacts that Rajiv has had, is that we are able to now stand up for ourselves and say, yeah, we are Hindus, and we're going to talk, and you better listen. You know, we are here. We're not going away. So I think that was really important. And so Garuda is the publication house. We're also evolving. I wanted to make a little pitch. We are creating this Garuda Life Marketplace, where we are getting craftsmen from India and also a lot of Ayurvedic products, networking with a lot of mid-sized and smaller ashrams that have wonderful products but don't have a way to market them, so that consumers all over the world, including North America, can actually use those products and also give back to the ashram community. So that is one of the efforts we are doing.
I have a few more people to call. So I'm going to, I want Suhag to talk about Hindu American Foundation, which she brought a very interesting photograph when 23 years ago in their apartment in Philadelphia, they invited me to brainstorm this idea that they were going to launch this Hindu American Foundation. So I was there, Aditi was also there. We showed this photograph because she came as part of the Infinity Foundation and we helped this HAF get launched. And after that, I want Sunil Shorian from Canada to talk about his ideas on how to train intellectual Kshatriyas. I did a course there in Toronto and he wants to scale it into a product and make a big thing out of it.
Namaste. I'll start with a story. I have an undergraduate degree in religion. And this was in 1989 that I was reading authors like Wendy Doniger, Sheldon Pollock, Michael Witzel. And I remember raising this issue with other Indian professors on campus that I'm reading things that don't reflect at all what I know, my tradition, and my community to be. And then, this is before the internet, and then Sulekha hit the internet. And I remember my husband as well, who also studied undergrad at the University of Florida, had kind of faced these same types of narratives. And we felt heard because we were told to keep our heads down because you want to go on to graduate school, you want to go to medical school, you don't risk that. So I want to say thank you for giving voice because our community was really focused on STEM and not on the humanities. No one knew that these narratives were there that then influence how the media represents us, how our policymakers see us. And that was nearly 30 years ago, and we still are facing so many of those challenges. We started the Hindu American Foundation 23 years ago. We are an education and advocacy organization. Our education efforts focus on improving K through 12 curricula. We've slowly but surely improved the curriculum in 8 states with a training program where we train public school education teachers and administrators on how to teach about Hinduism in more accurate and representative manner. That's an impact of millions. We have a lot of work to do still. The other piece of our work is our advocacy work, where we are facing issues that affect our well-being as Hindu Americans in this country. And I know we talk a lot about the woke left or the radical South Asian progressive, and that absolutely is an issue, but we're also faced with Christian nationalism. In the last year alone, we have fought about 80 pieces of legislation, or at least worked on 80 pieces of legislation, over a dozen of which are seeking to insert Christian hegemony into our public schools, where Bible study would be mandatory. The public display of the 10 Commandments would be. So these are the types of challenges we're facing on one side of the spectrum. And the other side is one that I know many of you are familiar with, and that is the institutionalization of caste. It's coming across on college campuses, it's happening in corporations, and it's happening at the local and state level. When we talk about this is an issue that has been used to shame and blame us as a people. So to get people to feel brave enough to go and testify publicly in front of a room full of people who already look at us as if we're backwards or inherently bigoted is not easy. But we've been able to get thousands of Hindu Americans who have come forward to understand that this is probably the greatest civil rights challenge that we're facing as a community in this country. We've become complacent because we are educationally and economically successful. But one thing I want to say is that activism doesn't happen in a vacuum. Swami Vivekananda said, "Arise, awake, stop not till the goal is reached." But sometimes you have to be awake before you can arise. And I think that for so many people that we meet in the community who are willing to take action, that their entry point was reading many of the books that Rajiv ji has written. So for us, it was awake And then we've been able to arise. So thank you for your service to Dharma.
Sunil Shuran. He's one of the Toronto-based, he and his wife, Bharati, where is she? She's helped so much in every respect, great. And one of the amazing things, I always get an experience of home-cooked, sattvic, most delicious khana I ever had in my life when I go to their house. And that's a great experience. So he's tell you something about, he's been part of our journey, part of our team for a long time. And he asked me to teach a course on how to be an intellectual Kshatriya in Toronto. We did about a 1-day course, 2 days course. And then, as far as I'm concerned, I need so many things going on, but now he's come up with, let's take that material, update it, and turn and scale it into actually a product. So tell us about it.
Namaste, everyone. So I'll talk about intellectual Kshatriya thing, but just to give you a little bit of context where and how it came about. So I'm a management consultant by profession, by the way. So my mind typically works how organization is supposed to work and how the continuity of work is supposed to be there. So when I met Rajivji for the first time, I was researching who are the good workers, who good people working in for our Bharat and stuff. Like basically everybody, like most of us, come from dharmic, desh, well-wisher kind of mindset. So I was researching who are the people. So I came across Rajivji on internet and I started researching, and I sent him an email and stuff. We communicated a little bit, and when he came to Toronto, I went to the SBVF temple and we met for the first time, and I was really shocked in a way. There were like literally probably 15, 20 people in the room. And the content that I had been reading on internet and content I saw Rajivji spoke, I said, hall should be filled by hundreds or thousands of people. So I asked Rajivji the same question. I said, Rajivji, what's going on? Your content is like world class and I don't see anybody here. He said, well, because I'm not Shah Rukh Khan, so I don't do this. So then I started thinking more and more, and I said, oh, okay, if so powerful people who are working on this stuff, if they don't have support, then one of the best ways I could do is multiply their effort by figuring out how I can contribute. So I started thinking of few key people, and Rajivji was the easiest one to work with in a way, because other people who had a little bit bureaucratic stuff and I didn't see much value. So I picked 3 or 4 key people, and Rajivji became my number one person. I said, this is one person I can learn a lot, I can contribute a lot. So a lot of people say he's not so easy to work with. To me, he's been super awesome to work with. I have direct access. I can learn. I can ask questions. In fact, some of the best conversations I've had with him are the spiritual conversations. So it's been great. So thank you for all the advice and great stuff. And then I said, this shouldn't end here. We should very quickly, within a year or so, I said, Rajivji, all this knowledge that you have, we should package it. And that's when I requested about the intellectual Kshatriya. And we worked for a couple of months, and I was thinking I'm going to do a whole lot of work on this, and I'm going to do this. And I realized Rajiv did most of the work. For me, it was the easy part of fixing this and that. And then, so my mind always has been, how do we enable other people who are doing the great work? And now, I have taken the initiative. I've done some research on LMSs. I have a little bit of a game plan of how do we take that intellectual Kshatriya workshop. If we just throw it out, it becomes a bunch of YouTube videos. So I'm thinking, make it a proper course. At that time also, we made it a certification program. But my general idea is, I need to validate a few details with Rajivji, but essentially it's kind of make it a proper certification that people apply for it. We approve it just like somebody takes an application in the school and qualify them. And just like you're applying in a school, you get a certification, and we do it. So content is kind of ready. At heart of it is like the 4 paths that we talk about Infinity Foundation work, real scholars or the academicians, or then the journalist kind of thing, or social activists and whatnot. Around 4 categories. We do a quick assessment, and which category you fall into, then build a curriculum and then train it. So let's see how we can stabilize it. That's the thought.
one person very quiet, I want to bring in, he's very quietly hiding, is Rahul Devan. Rahul, please come. So Rahul is a successful entrepreneur, made a big exit, made tons of money and all that. And now he's putting it back at this very young age. He's putting it back into our cause, starting new organizations in India, funding new organizations to do this kind of work. So this means that the idea of a banyan tree, he's actually planting a whole lot of those things on his own. So tell us about your venture, because some very rich people here who might invest in you. You'll go after them.
Okay, thank you, Rajiv ji. So I started Sangam Talks in 2016. It's now been 9 years, in fact. I was picking on ideas on how to do my 10-year anniversary next year on 4th of January from your event. So as I was, basically started inviting speakers, I ran across many wonderful Hindus who were in need of money. They were running wonderful projects, and so I started funding them in small ways. I funded all of this of Sangam Talks and all of this funding through a rule I set for myself that I donate 7% of my annual business profits and routed to my foundation, from which I ran my own internal projects and funded these organizations. And soon after a few years, this kitty kept growing, and 2000, just post-COVID, 21 or so, 22 maybe, I was thinking that, this is not sustainable and I can't endlessly keep funding every night. Not every night, but every now and then one would feel guilty of not having done enough. And so I thought that, let me think something audacious, big, hairy, audacious goal, and set a goal for creating a large Hindu fund. I thought of a Dharmic fund, Indic fund, all of that. And then so every time I thought about that, Swami Vijnanananda would enter my head and tell me, no, it has to be a Hindu fund because of his World Hindu Economic Forum. And he's absolutely adamant that we got to not be on the defensive and use terms like Indic, Dharmic, and so on and so forth. So I actually had to pay bribe to get the name Hindu Network Foundation, aka Hindu Fund. So I'm after creating 1,000 crore Hindu fund. I have personally funded a fair bit of money over the last 9 years. In fact, this year post my exit, yes, I had a very good exit. I sold to a Blackstone group company, so yes, I'm wealthy, but I use a large part of my money to fund Hindu causes. About over 90 organizations or individuals I've funded in the last 9 years. This year, the fund has grown to, just touching about $1 million. Other than the money that will transform Hindu organizations, the ecosystem, I think generally, funding the Ghar Wapsi movement is a very important aspect. So just FYI, I fund about 7 or 8 ex-Muslim YouTube channels, and I've been funding them for years now. All they need to do is come to me, ask for a basic amount of money that they need for survival, and I fund them. And it's been going on for years. Yeah, that's all. Thank you.
Dr. Bhandari came late, so I want to have you come and say a few words. Dr. Bhandari is a very low-profile man who's sort of understated, but actually a very important part of our journey. He is the head and founder of the Indus University, and his wife is actively involved and runs the actual university. And they have a wonderful daughter, is Naina here? She's there. She's a doctor, and she and her sister Radhika is an aerospace engineer. She runs the aerospace business. And so this family has been very good. I go and stay with them in Ahmedabad in their campus, and it's like home, and they really look after me. Now, he has been one of the most consistent, large donors, supporters, champions, ambassadors, lends his whole university to us. We do all kind of things. Anytime we go there, do a book launch, the whole campus shows up. He does that. So he's an amazing person. And when I said we are going to do this 30th anniversary, all he said is when and where, and I'm there, kind of that sort of thing. And he's that sort of person. So please say us a few words.
Namaskar to everybody. By profession, I am a spine surgeon, and we are running a Indus University since last 19 years in Ahmedabad. I'll tell about something about our journey, how we started with Rajiv ji. About 15, 16 years back, I did not know him at all. And fortunately, I saw one of his talk on TV. And then I was shocked and surprised also what this international forces like Islam, Christianity, and communist are. I mean, they are enemy to each other on at international level, but in India they are working together to finish the Sanatana Dharma. So I got very much disturbed, but at the same time it gave me a lot of clarity what is happening on the geopolitical level. Then after some time I met Rajiv ji in Delhi. I just went with one of my friend and told him that I want to work with you and support you in whatever way is possible. He said me, what do you want from me? I said, I don't want anything from you. I just want to work. Because he said, a lot of people come and they work with me. When they get some name, they just leave me. I said, I am not interested at all in getting any name, but I just want to support, because if Sanatana Dharma survives, then we survive. Otherwise, everybody goes. So this is how we started working. Then for 2-3 years, we organized few conferences on history of science and technology. We published few of his old books for the same. And then he was a very regular visitor to our place. Then in 2015, we started a Center for Indic Studies to carry on his work in a proper way. So we employed 2-3 people. Then in probably it was 2015 or 16, he sent us one article about the looming threat over this Kumbh Mela. Then we thought, why not to publish this in local languages. Then we printed so many, in thousands, we printed a small book and published it and spread it all over the country. Then suddenly an idea came. Why not to, because what used to happen every time any documentary made on Kumbh Mela by Western people was with a very different perspective. They always tried to portray bad things about Kumbh Mela, like drug addiction, rapes, diseases. So we thought, why not to make a documentary with a dharmic perspective? Then our team went to Ujjain in Kumbh Mela. Then they shooted for about 300 hours, and we made one documentary on Kumbh Mela of 1 hour. It was released in 2016 by Vice President Shri Venkataya Naidu ji. Then gradually we started working more and more, and we employed more people. Now at present we have got about 15 full-timer people for Indic studies. And then I also realized that about 125 years back, Vivekananda ji told about the Sanatana Dharma. Then there was Shri Arvind ji, and then Sitaram Goel ji and Ram Sarup ji. These were the pioneers. Then after that, there was a gap, in which was filled by the one-man army, that is Shri Rajiv ji. And yes, of course, over a period of time, a lot of people joined, and it has become now a big army. And I consider him as a Maharishi, because whatever he's doing is extraordinary work, which till now nobody has thought of and done in that way, because he has brought so many new concepts about the Sanatana Dharma, and he has broken the colonial narrative by this children follow Wendy Doniger, because they were always trying to portray Sanatan Dharma in a very negative way, very bad way, and he has broken all those narratives, and he has given a very new direction to thinking for the Sanatan Dharma, and because of him, what I see now, not a single Western Indologist is coming to India trying to attack on Sanatan Dharma. Only local people who are supported by different NGOs and governments from other countries are trying to bring bad name to Sanatan Dharma, but because of his crusade, now all things are getting washed away, and I think he has done a very great service to the Sanatan Dharma, and I think we all should feel indebted to him for his work, extraordinary work, and we always wish him a long and healthy good life. Thank you.
Now, I want to finally, I hope I haven't missed anybody, but I want to have for four persons who come from India, please come here. I left the best for last. So Manogna come, Shalini come, Anurag and Shubhadeep come, and you also, Vanda, you also come. So I want each of the, so we decided that we'd showcase these 4 or 5 people. She lives in Luxembourg. She's an astrophysicist. She lives in Boston. Charni lives in Bangalore, moved from Pune. Shubhadeep lives in Calcutta. Anurag lives in Delhi. And they have been working, they're full-time in Infinity Foundation. We're nurturing young people. We get them as interns, many of them, and then they help in various ways. And then we put them on the payroll, part-time, full-time, like that. And they do research assistance. You ask them to build a bibliography of this thing, or check all the quotes, or do some editing, clean up the diagrams. And this goes on. And the ones who are good, they keep working their way to writing articles, writing chapters of a book. So they produce some books where they have written all the articles, and then they ask me to write the foreword or the summary, put it together. And then some of them are becoming co-authors of mine. So the idea is to gradually launch them into their own careers, so they become small trunks of the banyan tree and then giant trunks one day. So why don't we go one at a time? You tell us in 1 minute each on your story and whatever you want to say. Anything, good, bad, you can say horrible things about me. Now's your chance.
Namaste all. As Rajiv ji mentioned, I come from a background of theoretical physics and mathematics. And both those are fields where controversial ideas have actually shaped our understanding of nature. And my own understanding that controversy sometimes is good. And that is something that I find resonance even with the work that we do at Infinity Foundation. We believe in taking up non-trivial projects which lead to groundbreaking impact. I think that has been a yardstick which has made a huge personal difference to me. My own journey, as Rajiv ji mentioned, it has gone from being a reader of his work to contributing articles to the conferences that he used to hold, the Swadeshi Indology Conference, and then an editor, and the book we co-wrote last year with Ross Kundan here. I think the main things that resonate with me is at Infinity, and perhaps one of the few places that we can do in this Indit space, is we produce research which create the frameworks. And these frameworks become instrumental in analyzing the kind of Kurukshetra we find ourselves in today. Whether it is how theories have morphed, sometimes over centuries, and they come up in newer forms, sometimes understanding what are the players involved, to interpret these and to put them and to give context to some of the happenings that we find around us, these frameworks are essential. So whether it is, I think all of you are familiar, challenging and understanding Western universalism, that has been an example. What we're also doing at Infinity, which particularly excites me, is that we also help create toolkits which act as solutions for others within the field. And a classic example of that is how we have taken Sanskrit non-translatables as a very important project for us. This involves spotlighting Sanskrit as a language and adopting it as is within our everyday communication, within our technical communication, and overall giving it the main respect that it deserves as a vehicle of our Samskriti. So there are many of these kind of projects that we take on, all non-trivial. And because they're non-trivial, they also challenge the status quo that exists in various subfields of these, and hence lead to some of the controversial positions that get associated with us. But this is some of the most vital, groundbreaking work that all of us at Infinity take a lot of pride in doing and are very thankful for that.
Before we go to the next one, I want to say her husband's also here. Anurag, where is he? So Anurag and they live in Luxembourg. Hopefully they'll relocate to the United States. He's a very senior AI roboticist at Amazon and does secret things, all kind of secret things. So one day when you have Amazon with robot coming here and doing things, he's the guy who's making it happen. So welcome to our house. Wonderful. We've talked on the phone, but I'm seeing him for the first time. So nice. So Shalini. Shalini is the leader of Infinity Foundation India, and the one who they all come to when they have a problem with me, so she can shout it. So come.
So please excuse me if I'm a little nervous. I'm not used to public speaking all that much. So I'm not the scholar per se, but yeah, I'm the mother hen at Infinity Foundation India. So yeah, I think I've just listened to everybody here. And I think as Hindus, we are still to understand terminologies. You know, I never heard the word think tank. So I think these are terminologies that are very important and we should learn them because they are institutions used by the West for propagating narratives. And as Hindus, we don't have even a vocabulary to talk about what we need to fight. So a think tank is an institution which develops original frameworks, vocabulary that we are all using. We are all using words like Hinduphobia, we are using breaking India, we are using urban Naxals. These are words that we have coined and we are using now, but they come from a lot of thinking that goes into developing frameworks to describe these phenomena. So I think we really need to learn to use vocabulary also in articulating our positions. And we have, I think today, a lot of think tanks in India which are doing work on various spheres, maybe political, economic, social, but civilizational think tank, we don't have too many. I think Infinity Foundation has been one of the pioneers in looking at Bharat as a civilization with its underpinnings in Hinduism, and therefore creating a narrative. It's all about narratives, and Infinity Foundation is trying to create those narratives. So it's not like we did not know earlier. We had our mathas, we had darshanas, they were the think tanks of the time. And we are trying to revive that institution by reformulating Hinduism for the times. And it is think tanks which help nurture others who pick up those kind of frameworks and spread it to the public. And I think bringing think tanks plus activists plus influencers together under this Banyan Tree initiative is a very important task, because we have to do a lot of work to revive ourselves. Thank you.
So I'll elaborate a little more. The project I gave her is to, which she's done very well, she presented yesterday, is to ask the question that the traditional matthas were think tanks for their time. Nalanda was world premier think tank of its time. What happened? And now we have think tanks in the West, and they are the ones bringing Carnegie Institute to India, Ford Foundation to India. So we're actually importing think tanks, getting more colonized, because now they are the people training, and our kids are very proud that I have a job in this American think tank, and they're learning the American way of thinking about us. So what happened between the old matthas and now? Why is it that our think tanks are frozen in time? They will teach you about old stuff, but they're not teaching you about current issues. And what is that happen? And we are filling that space. And one of the things she didn't mention is we have done a whole lot of Swadeshi Indology conferences, and she's the person who organizes the conference, puts it all together, gets a lot of speakers and so on. So why don't you come next?
So Ram Ram everybody. I am from the land of Sri Ram. My birthplace is Ayodhya. And Jai Sri Ram. So my association with Rajiv ji was very interesting. In my first email to Rajiv ji, I mentioned him as Dhruvasa. So in the next email, I saw Dhruvasa ji taking avatar. So, but the message is like, in all the Shastra, in all the Dharma Shastra, if we read about Dhruvasa Rishi, whomever he has given so-called shrap. Shrap is not curse. So whomever he has given shrap has been turned into a vardhan for that person. So for me, all his teachings and advices became vardhan for me. And I got to know my Swadharma, what I have to exactly focus on. So it was all hodgepodge everywhere, but it got centered, pointed by Rajiv ji. At Infinity Foundation, I was involved in various work. Currently, I am involved in taking Rajiv ji's books, especially Sanskrit non-translatable books. And from those books, I take out the words and associate it with the katha from Puran or from Itihas or from some Vedic wisdom, combine them and teach it to young children, teenagers, and parents. And that is how they get to understand the concept very easily, and that is how they find it easy and proud that the knowledge which is in Purana, Puran iti nava, I'm not able to quote right now correctly, but in Sanskrit it means Puratan doesn't mean old. It is always new. It is always evolving. So all the wisdom of Vedic system is in Puran, in our Itihas, in all the kathas. So kathas are the means by which our ancestors have been passing on the knowledge, the Vedic wisdom in the form of katha to children, to youngsters. So that is my current job right now in Infinity. And I did a trial course from the last December, and it continued till January. And it was really appreciated, and I got a very positive feedback. And I wish I will, I think I'll be making more courses regarding the Katha and taking more and more books of Rajiv ji, joining it, combining it with the wisdom of Vedas and explaining it to our young generation. That's my, thank you.
Anurag. So we want to finish quickly because we have a 5-minute video on how to get rid of Rajiv through AI. And then we'll have dinner.
Jai Shri Krishna, Radhe Radhe everyone. So I will not take too much of your time. So as we have heard in the evening earlier that many people have their story when they were doing something and then they suddenly quit, inspired by Rajiv ji. So my story is also similar. To give you a brief background, I am a graduate from IIT Bombay and I was working with British Petroleum. And also I suddenly decided that I should do preparation for UPSC to become an IAS officer. And when I started reading history, I realized that a lot of things because I come from a family of traditional acharyas, so I found that there are so many things that are wrong. And I was wondering if anyone is talking about it. So I went to YouTube and I saw Rajiv ji's video. He had a spat with that professor, and I was like, "Yeah, this this is amazing." So then I came to know about his books, which I read, and so I wrote to Rajiv ji at that time. That was 8 years back, and luckily he was in Delhi at that time, and immediately I got a response, and we met. And then after that, I joined him, and I worked. I think Sanskrit non-translatables was the book that he was writing at that time, and so after that, I started continuing. I worked, as he just mentioned, on other book projects also, helping him out in various things. And currently, because I'm well acquainted with Sanskrit, although I do not have a formal degree, so I'm also handling the translation of Rajiv ji's works into Sanskrit and also Hindi. So that is what I'm doing, and I'm very grateful for this evening. And good afternoon, Namaste.
He's a very modest guy. He has a B.Tech and an M.Tech. He could make a huge career in the tech industry today, but this is what he wants to do. And he's also really into Krishna Bhakti and a good guide if you want to go to Vrindavan, and he'll tell you all about it and so on. So Shubhaji, please.
Namaste, everyone. So I am not your typical scholar, and I hope you don't mind me referring to these notes I just prepared right now. So I'll start by saying that I am a non-vegetarian. I'm not a vegetarian, and I'm not religious also, and I don't go to temples. So your questions might be, "Yahan pe kya kar rahe ho fir?" If you're none of these. So I'll explain that. That is my journey actually. So I considered myself an atheist as I grew up, and I still consider myself an atheist, but the definition has changed, and it changed because I started reading Being Different. So there's a chapter called Sanskrit Non-Translatables, which talks about the fact that God is not the same as Ishvara, and Dharma is not the same as religion. So I'm still an atheist in that I reject God, the Judeo-Christian idea of God. I reject that. I don't believe in Allah or Jesus, and I also reject the idea of religion, but not Dharma. So that is the change which has happened to me as I read Being Different and eventually Sanskrit non-translatable terms. So I am an Astika. An Astika is one who accepts the Vedas as Shabda Praman. So I consider myself an Astika atheist. I don't know if there's such a term, but that is what I am now. And all this has happened in my 9 years journey with Infinity Foundation. So the book Being Different, that gave me the framework to decode what was happening in the world all around. It had a lot of terms, lot of vocabulary, which helped explain the madness that we see all around. It helped make sense of what was happening to us and why certain people behaved in certain way with us. And Breaking India was all about a framework of what was happening to India as a nation state, that we were under attack and we were not aware of the fact that we were under attack. So these two books provided certain frameworks which I understood as an engineer and an MBA, because it talked in terms of concepts, in terms of data, and in terms of hard numbers that I could relate to. So as I continued working, I also did a second master's in journalism and mass communication, because that was one of Rajiv ji's inspiration, that we don't have too many people on our side who are journalists, because most journalists have this leftist orientation. So I wanted to be that person. And also Rajiv ji's book on AI, that inspired me later to pursue a PhD on the intersection of AI and social sciences. so which I'm still pursuing right now. So thank you, Rajiv ji, for the guidance, and I wish to continue for a long time in Infinity Foundation. Thank you.
So you can see they're all very distinct personalities, each one of them. And this is a sample of the kind of intellectual Kshatriya army we want to produce.